Developing today, I can reveal Prince William has in the past fortnight seized control of the British monarchy from a weak and dying King Charles, and that spells very bad news for Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, Archie and Lily.
Developing today, I can reveal that behind palace walls, a dramatic and highly sensitive shift of power is already unfolding. In what sources describe as an unprecedented move, Prince William has allegedly stepped in to take control of key royal decisions as King Charles's condition continues to worsen. And according to insiders, this sudden change signals serious consequences ahead for Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and their children. What was once delayed behind protocol is now reportedly moving at full speed. But the real shock isn't the action itself. It's the reason behind it. A secret, long buried, may have finally surfaced, and it's powerful enough to force Prince William's hand without delay. Behind closed doors, sources claim Prince William has begun the final phase of a long-rumored strategy to remove the Sussex's royal titles. Insiders familiar with palace decision-making suggest this isn't just about protocol, public image, or political pressure. Something far more personal appears to have forced William's hand, and the timing alone has raised eyebrows. The alleged process is said to be moving forward just days before the anniversary of Queen Elizabeth II's passing, a moment loaded with emotion, symbolism, and unresolved tension within the royal family. What's fueling the urgency, according to multiple reports, isn't merely Harry and Meghan's public fallout with the monarchy. It's the claim that William recently uncovered deeply sensitive material tied to the late Queen herself. Rumors suggest he came across a private diary containing entries described by insiders as disturbing, emotional, and impossible to ignore. Some believe the notes reference an incident involving Meghan that was quietly buried years ago, an episode the Queen may have chosen to shield from public scrutiny to preserve family unity. At the same time, attention has unexpectedly turned toward Meghan's former husband, Trevor Engelson. Reports claim he has been discreetly advised to leave the United Kingdom, igniting speculation about what he may know or what he may have been part of in the past. Is he simply a loose end being tied up? Or does he hold information capable of triggering a far larger revelation? Meanwhile, Prince Harry's recent movements have only deepened the mystery. Following an emergency visit to Britain, he reportedly did not return to Montecito. Instead, insiders claim he has been keeping a low profile near Heathrow, avoiding public appearances and staying out of sight. Some interpret this as caution, others see it as fear. Either way, the silence from Buckingham Palace has only intensified curiosity, with many wondering what truth could be so serious that it forced William to act swiftly, decisively, and without compromise. And if the rumors are even partially true, the question isn't just what William discovered. It's whether the fallout from that discovery is only just beginning. The turning point, according to reports circulating among royal insiders, traces back to something Prince William never expected to find, a private diary belonging to Queen Elizabeth II, not an official journal, not a ceremonial record, but a deeply personal volume the late monarch reportedly used to record moments of emotional strain, family concern, and decisions she never spoke about publicly. Sources claim William discovered the diary while retrieving personal items from the Queen's former private rooms, expecting little more than sentimental reflections or health notes from her final years. Instead, what he allegedly read painted a far more complicated picture, one filled with quiet doubt, restrained judgment, and lingering unease surrounding events tied to Meghan Markle during the early years of her relationship with Prince Harry. According to unverified accounts, several entries hinted that the Queen had privately questioned a sensitive narrative Meghan once shared with the family. The tone of the writing, as described by those familiar with the material, wasn't hostile or accusatory. It was controlled, careful, and almost painfully diplomatic. But beneath that restraint, some believe the Queen recorded inconsistencies that troubled her, as well as moments where she felt emotionally manipulated yet chose silence for the sake of family stability. What reportedly unsettled William most wasn't just the content of the entries, but the emotional weight behind them. Insiders claim the Queen expressed concern that Harry had been presented with opportunities to clarify the truth about certain matters, yet repeatedly chose loyalty to his wife over transparency with his family. In her writing, she allegedly wrestled with whether to intervene more forcefully and ultimately decided to step back, hoping time would resolve what confrontation could not. There are also whispers that the Queen suspected the situation was more complex than a simple misunderstanding. Some rumors suggest she believed an elaborate performance had been constructed long before Meghan fully entered royal life. One designed to evoke sympathy, silence scrutiny, or leverage the monarchy's reputation. None of this has been confirmed, and Buckingham Palace has made no public comment. Still, the suggestion that the Queen carried these concerns quietly for years has sparked intense fascination online. What adds to the intrigue is the idea that the diary wasn't written impulsively, but intentionally, almost as a message to the future. Sources speculate that certain pages were marked, as though the Queen anticipated someone would eventually read them. If true, it suggests she may have wanted William to see what she could never bring herself to confront openly, placing the burden of action on him once she was gone. For William, insiders say this discovery reportedly reframed everything. Decisions that once seemed political or strategic allegedly became deeply personal. The question, in his mind, shifted from public image to legacy, whether the monarchy could afford to ignore what his grandmother had privately documented, or whether failing to act will allow an unresolved narrative to stain future generations. At the heart of it all is a lingering sense of regret set to echo through the diary's final entries. Unverified descriptions claim the Queen reflected on her relationship with Harry, expressing sadness that love alone could not bridge the gap between truth and loyalty. Rather than anger, she reportedly wrote with exhaustion, as if she fought a quiet, internal battle for years and simply ran out of strength to continue it. If these accounts are accurate, the diary didn't just reveal family tension. It allegedly handed William a moral dilemma tied to memory, responsibility, and the promise of protecting the institution his grandmother devoted her life to preserving. For him, this wasn't about settling scores. It was about deciding whether ignoring the past would ultimately do more damage than confronting it. And if the Queen truly left behind a silent warning, then what William read may have been more than personal reflection. It may have been a final request, one he now feels compelled to honor, no matter the consequences. Long before this controversy allegedly resurfaced, there was someone quietly watching from the background, a palace staff member who noticed details others overlooked. According to circulating accounts, this individual worked within the Queen's household during the period when Meghan first joined the royal family, moving through private corridors, dressing rooms, and service areas where even small irregularities could stand out. Those familiar with the situation claim she possessed an unusually sharp memory, the kind that captures precise moments, conversations, and visual details without effort. It was during one private encounter, sources suggest, that she witnessed Meghan recounting a deeply emotional personal story in the Queen's presence, a story meant to explain past pain, heartbreak, and loss. The tone appeared fragile. The emotion seemed carefully measured, and yet subtle inconsistencies reportedly lingered in the room. Days later, according to unverified reports, this same staff member allegedly encountered paperwork that raised new questions. A medical-related slip, tied to reproductive health and dated months before Meghan's engagement to Harry, reportedly fell from a handbag during routine preparations. The moment was brief, but the memory stuck. What made it more unsettling, sources claim, was Meghan's sudden shift in demeanor when the document was noticed. Gone was a vulnerability. In its place, an abrupt sharpness that hinted something was not meant to be seen. There are also whispers of conversation overheard in a camera-free corridor, a hushed exchange that allegedly involved Meghan and a man believed to be Trevor Engelson. Reports claim the discussion referenced coordinating a narrative, controlling emotional timing, and presenting a specific version of events if questioned in the future. Whether the conversation was fully understood or partially misinterpreted remains unclear. Still, the impression left behind was enough to trouble the listener. Unsure what to do and aware of the risks involved, the staff member is said to have written a discreet letter to Queen, careful, respectful, and framed as a concern rather than an accusation. The message reportedly explained what had been seen and heard, acknowledging the possibility of misunderstanding, but urging caution in case the monarchy was being drawn into something misleading. No public response ever followed. Instead, according to those who claim knowledge of the matter, the staff member was quietly reassigned to a more remote royal estate, a move interpreted by some as protective rather than punitive. The idea, rumors suggest, was not to silence her, but to keep her distant from the growing storm while the Queen observed events unfold on her own terms. Years passed. The world moved on. Public narratives shifted. But the memory and the evidence reportedly remained preserved in private. Paparazzi images of Meghan and Trevor visiting a Los Angeles medical facility multiple times in a single day, a saved photograph of the appointment slip, and later, a recording of William's closed-door remarks confirming that he intended to confront whatever truth had been buried. When word began spreading that William had discovered the Queen's diary and was preparing decisive action, the former staff member allegedly understood the moment had finally arrived. What had once felt too dangerous to reveal now felt like a responsibility delayed for too long. Reports suggest she gathered everything she had saved, photos, documents, audio, sealed them into a plain package, and sent it directly to Harry. The delivery itself has become part of the mystery, a box with no return address. Inside, images tied to the past, a USB labeled only with a cryptic message, and a handwritten note urging Harry to confront a question he may have avoided for years. Whether the sender intended to warn him, expose something, or force a reckoning remains a matter of speculation. What's certain, according to insiders, is that this package reignited a chain reaction. It reportedly intensified William's investigation, validated concerns documented in the Queen's diary, and pushed long-suppressed suspicions into the open. What had once been whispers became leverage. What had been quietly archived became impossible to ignore. And for Harry, receiving it wasn't just shocking. It may have been the first undeniable sign that a narrative he defended for years was about to collapse, piece by piece, under the weight of evidence that refused to stay buried. As William's private inquiry reportedly accelerated, attention turned to a figure many assumed had long faded from relevance: Meghan's former husband, Trevor Engelson. What followed, according to circulating insider accounts, unfolded far from public view, in quiet hotel rooms, discreet meetings, and conversations designed to leave no official trace. Reports claim Trevor was recently contacted by individuals connected to royal legal and security channels and advised to leave the United Kingdom almost immediately. The suddenness of the request sparked online speculation that he might hold sensitive knowledge capable of reshaping the narrative surrounding Meghan's past, or confirming long-rumored claims that something more calculated had been in motion years earlier. Sources familiar with the matter suggest Trevor was presented with a stark choice: cooperate fully with investigators or face potential legal consequences tied to alleged misconduct involving royal property and misrepresentation. While none of these allegations have been publicly verified, insiders claim the pressure placed on him was enough to prompt cooperation behind closed doors. What he reportedly disclosed has since fueled intense speculation. According to unconfirmed accounts, Trevor described an alleged agreement dating back to 2017, one that revolved around presenting a specific story if questions ever arose about Meghan's past. The narrative, sources claim, centered on portraying a tragic personal experience designed to evoke sympathy, deflect scrutiny, and strengthen Meghan's emotional standing within the royal family. Rumors suggest the plan involved timing emotional revelations, shaping public perception, and maintaining a consistent version of events if challenged. In exchange, Trevor allegedly expected a reward that would significantly elevate his personal or financial status, though what that reward entailed has been the subject of heated debate. Some reports go further, claiming the arrangement may have involved a valuable royal artifact that Meghan allegedly had knowledge of during her early proximity to palace life. According to these unverified claims, the artifact was intended as leverage, proof of access, power, and insider awareness. While there is no official confirmation that such a plan ever progressed beyond discussion, the mere suggestion has intensified speculation about how deeply strategy and ambition may have shaped decisions behind the scenes. What complicates matters further is the claim that Trevor eventually realized he'd been left waiting indefinitely, promised outcomes never delivered, silence replacing prior communication, and an understanding that whatever agreement existed had been quietly abandoned. That realization, sources say, left him frustrated, fearful, and unsure whether staying silent would ultimately protect him or expose him. As Williams' team allegedly gathered statements, financial records, message screenshots, and travel timelines, the broader picture, at least as portrayed by insiders, began to look less like coincidence and more like orchestration, not definitive proof, but enough circumstantial detail to raise questions about whether emotional narratives had been strategically shaped for influence rather than truth. The most explosive rumor to emerge from these reports centers on Prince Harry himself. While there is no verified evidence that he knowingly participated in any alleged arrangement, some insiders suggest he may have sensed inconsistencies, yet chose not to pursue them, prioritizing loyalty over confrontation. Whether this was love, denial, or emotional exhaustion remains a matter of interpretation. What William reportedly took from Trevor's statements wasn't just confirmation of potential deception, but a deeper sense that the monarchy had been emotionally leveraged at a vulnerable time, particularly during the Queen's later years. To him, according to sources, the issue became less about personal grievances and more about whether allowing an unresolved falsehood to linger would erode institutional credibility for generations. As word of Trevor's involvement quietly spread, it also fueled the theory that Meghan's sudden silence on certain past topics, combined with her forward-facing media confidence, may have been part of a broader strategy to control narrative momentum before uncomfortable questions could gain traction. Still, everything surrounding this alleged arrangement remains speculative. No official records have been released. No formal charges have been confirmed. And both Trevor and Meghan have avoided direct public comment on these claims. But within royal circles, the belief reportedly solidified that whatever happened in the past was no longer just private history. It had become a liability, a reputational fault line, and a story William felt could no longer remain buried. And as investigators pieced together fragments of old messages, photographs, timelines, and testimony, the stage was set for the most painful chapter yet. The inevitable collision between two brothers standing on opposite sides of loyalty, truth, and legacy. By the time Harry arrived back in Britain, the outcome was already moving beyond emotion and into inevitability. What awaited him wasn't just a family conversation or another strained negotiation. It was a quiet final stage of a decision that had been building in silence for years. According to reports from those familiar with the encounter, Harry was summoned to a private meeting with William, where the atmosphere felt less like a reunion and more like a reckoning. Gone were the informal tones of brothers who once shared grief jokes and childhood memories. In their place stood two men divided by loyalty, resentment, and incompatible versions of the same past. Insiders claim William presented Harry with material he believed could no longer be dismissed: documents, images, testimony, and excerpts from the Queen's private reflections. To William, this wasn't about punishing Harry. It was about addressing what he reportedly viewed as a prolonged deception that had emotionally impacted their grandmother and threatened the credibility of the monarchy itself. Harry, on the other hand, is said to have reacted with fury, heartbreak, and disbelief, interpreting the move not as justice, but as betrayal layered on top of years of perceived exclusion and hostility toward Meghan. Supporters of Harry argue he was forced into an impossible position, choosing between his wife and a family that had already made him feel like an outsider. Critics argue he chose denial over accountability. What followed, according to multiple accounts, was an emotional implosion. Accusations flew, old wounds reopened, and decades of unresolved resentment reportedly boiled over in a moment that permanently fractured what little bond remained between the brothers. Soon after, the institutional machinery moved forward. Sources claim a formal vote was held among senior figures tied to royal governance, where the removal of Harry and Meghan's titles was approved under the justification of safeguarding the monarchy's integrity. William, insiders say, framed the decision not as retaliation, but as reform, a declaration that no personal relationship, not even blood, could outweigh the responsibility to protect the crown's reputation. Publicly, reactions were immediate and divided. Some praised William for asserting authority and preserving tradition. Others condemned the move as cold, punitive, and potentially driven by unresolved family bias. Online debates exploded, with supporters on both sides accusing the other of manipulation, cruelty, or opportunism. Meanwhile, Harry reportedly withdrew from public view, staying in a low-profile location near Heathrow, avoiding familiar spaces that once defined his identity. Those close to him describe a man confronting the collapse of a world he had defended, stripped not just of titles, but of belonging, certainty, and the role he once believed was his birthright. Across the ocean, Meghan's response reportedly moved in a very different direction. Insiders claim she began preparing a media strategy designed to reshape public perception, framing the situation as another chapter in a long narrative of mistreatment, prejudice, and institutional hostility. Whether this effort is motivated by self-defense, image management, or strategic storytelling remains open to interpretation. To some observers, this entire saga reflects a tragic collision between personal loyalty and institutional duty. To others, it's proof that power, narrative control, and reputation often outweigh family bonds. Even at the highest level, and at the center of it all stands Harry, no longer shielded by royal identity, left to confront the cost of decisions made in love, defiance, and belief. A man who once lived in palaces now watches planes depart, unsure where he belongs, questioning what was real, what was staged, and what he sacrificed in the name of trust. So the real question isn't just who was right or wrong. It's what happens when truth, rumor, ambition, and legacy collide at the very top of global power. Was this an overdue reckoning, a ruthless power move, or the tragic fallout of a family that never healed? If you want more deep dive breakdowns like this, exploring hidden power plays, elite scandals, and the stories powerful people don't want fully exposed, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments, because the next revelation might be even bigger than this one.